we don't need roads.
Guys, this is an absolute honor for me. Seriously, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump into this. Viggo, I'm going to start with you. So much of this movie is about how far we will physically push ourselves for art. So I'm curious, what is the most that you feel like you've ever had to physically push yourself as an actor to nail a scene or a take or a moment or maybe even an entire performance?
I mean, there's scenes that maybe you've seen in movies you would think, oh, that must have been a very difficult or one of the most difficult things. What's interesting about working in movies and telling stories is that it's often the scenes that when you read the script and you're looking ahead, okay, next week I have this, and then on Thursday I have that, that's going to be really a difficult scene, emotionally or physically or something. And then sometimes it's not. And sometimes the scenes, it's like, oh, you're just saying a few lines and you're just sitting in a chair talking, or you're walking down the street, and you mistakenly think, oh, that's going to be easy, and that ends up being really difficult for some reason. You don't feel it's real, it's not working, or the director doesn't like what you're doing, or it's surprising. It's usually so. I mean, I can't point out one. You know, there are obviously scenes that are physically difficult to do, but things that are physically difficult are not always the most challenging. You know.
Like the scene from Eastern Promises, would that be something that would be easier or harder than you expected it to be in advance of actually shooting it?
The fight in the bathhouse, you mean?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Well, I knew that was going to be physically, difficult just because the floor is hard and I was going to be landing and there's no protection. And so, yeah, you kind of knew, but we worked very hard on the choreography of it. It was like a dance. And on a practical level, yeah, by the end of the day, I thought we were doing it all in one day. And then David said, I'm really sorry, but tomorrow morning I need a few more shots. And I'm like, oh. Because then the next morning I was really sore. And I had lots of bruises. And so they didn't just have to put all these tattoos, but they spent even more time covering the marks, so yeah. But that's on a superficial level. As far as the emotional journey of that scene, I enjoyed it, because it's like a survival situation, adapting and overcoming to what's happening to you, what this life-threatening situation. And I think, all great artists, and Cronenberg is certainly one, that's what they do. They adapt and overcome. For example, this movie, he wanted to shoot it in a more controlled, familiar place, Toronto. In the end, we shot it in Athens, and it was like between 100, it was never less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The first week, it was like 110, 112, in buildings, old buildings that were with no air conditioning. There was also forest fires, so the air was, everything about it was odd. But when you adapt and overcome as an artist, instead of complaining about it, you use it. And that's what David did. So this atmosphere of heat and strange air and bright light in summer in Greece added layers, added texture to the story, and I think it affected our performances. I know for me, because it was so hot, that I had to just slow down my heart and my thinking, so it was like each line was a line. Each look, everything that everybody said, everything sort of slowed down and became very focused, which in a way is the ideal way to work, but we don't always do it because we're thinking, we're second guessing. I didn't have the energy to think, I'm not doing a good job. I was just like, I just have to pay attention and get through this scene,
Well, you guys nail it, because it's amazing how much Grease is almost like a character in the film. Léa, you've worked with so many legendary directors in your career already. You look at, Sam Mendes, Wes Anderson, Ridley Scott, Yorgos Lanthimos, Quentin Tarantino, so many others. Obviously, now you're adding David Cronenberg to the list. At this point in your career, have you noticed like a through line in great directors? Is there a constant that all great directors share, even though they're all wildly different filmmakers?
I've worked with many different directors, so they are all different. And it's always, when you work with a director, it's always a new, door, like opening a new door, and you understand new things. But what I can say is that I love to work with directors. Like it's to me because they are like I like to be drawn in their world, and it's what I love, and also I love to adapt myself. Like they have a different style and a different even like the way actors act in their films it's always different. So I think this is what I like, to adapt myself, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing, It's you're just like in front of a camera, and it's like being in front of a blank page, and you just have to like create something out of yourself and out of like. So it's always a bit. How can I say this? It's intimidating, and I'm always afraid, I have to say. I'm scared all the time, but this is what I like. I'm addicted
you're so
to
good
that
at it,
fear,
though. I was about to say, like, I feel whatever it is you do with that fear is phenomenal. Viggo, I'm going to cut you loose on this. Even though this is the 4th time you've worked with David, I feel like it's sort of the first time you've ever gotten like full-blown body horror David Cronenberg, at least in the sense of something like The Fly or Videodrome. Is that an aspect of his work that you've been looking to explore since you've gotten to know him? Is there a part of you that always wanted to get sort of that David Cronenberg?
Well, there have been aspects of that. There's certain scenes that have some physical, whether it's violence or some revealing thing that happens. I mean, you could say that a history of violence. You could say that about Eastern Promises. There's moments. Even in A Dangerous Method, in a sort of more clinical way, more psychological way, there's kind of revealing things that happen. But yeah, I didn't expect him to come back to some of the imagery from, say, decades ago. So it was a good journey. Every time you work with him, he creates a world, and he draws you in, like Léa was describing, and you end up going with it. He's convincing, and he invites you in a really open, honest way into his world. And once you're in, and you feel like a commitment to, you have to give everything you can to help him tell his story. That's good directing, He inspires that in his performers and in his crew as well. For me, it was a different character because he's very reactive, A lot of the other characters I've played for him generally, and most of the characters I've played in the movies are not so reactive. Saul is like, there's a certain timidity. He's contradictory because he's very secretive and almost paranoid about his physical state. But on the other hand, he seeks to reveal his innermost secrets with the help of his partner, Caprice, in public performances. It's very contradictory, It's sort of an artist. You find that in artists and actors sometimes they can be, as people in real life, they can be kind of shy and careful, but it's in their work that they open up emotionally and physically, And so, yeah, David's that way, and this character is that way. But it took me a little getting used to the fact that he's reacting to his body, he's reacting to his partner, and to the environment around him, and more so than other characters. So it took me a little while to figure out what to do. I thought, I'm not doing enough. And then I realized, no, that's the way he is, this character, yeah.
Guys, I have to tell you, I don't mean to geek out, but the two of you are two of my favorite actors working today. It's an absolute honor just to get the chance to speak with both of you, particularly for this film. So I know you have a busy schedule, so I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.